My jealous girlfriend fell in love with my older brother, because when she was at home, she saw that he had a Lamborghini. Relationships are like glass. Sometimes it's better to leave them broken than try to hurt yourself putting them back together. I learned this the hard way when my girlfriend Sophia fell in love with my older brother Lucas because of a damn Lamborghini. But let me start from the beginning. My name is Ethan, and I've been dating Sophia for almost a year. We met at a friend's party, and she was everything I thought I wanted. Beautiful, smart, and ambitious. But there was always an undercurrent of jealousy in her, a trait that I naively believed would fade with time. It didn't. From the start, Sophia seemed to have a chip on her shoulder. She was constantly comparing herself to others, always feeling like she had to prove something. It was exhausting, but I cared about her and tried my best to reassure her. I thought that if I just loved her enough, her insecurities would disappear. I was wrong. Then there was Lucas, my older brother. He was everything I wasn't: successful, charismatic, and wealthy. He worked in finance and had a lifestyle that screamed luxury. Despite our differences, Lucas and I were close. He was always there for me, offering advice and support whenever I needed it. But his success, I realized later, would become a sore point in my relationship with Sophia. Sophia had heard about Lucas from me, of course, but she had never met him. She knew he was successful and had a flashy lifestyle, but she never showed any particular interest until the day I invited her to my family's home. "Ethan, are you sure it's okay if I come?" she asked, biting her lip nervously. "I don't want to intrude." "Of course it's okay," I assured her, squeezing her hand. "My family is excited to meet you, and I want you to see where I grew up. It'll be fun, I promise." Sophia smiled, but I could see the nervousness in her eyes. I hoped that spending time with my family would help her feel more secure in our relationship. I wanted her to see that she was a part of my world, that she belonged with us. We arrived at my parents' house on a sunny Saturday afternoon. The moment we pulled into the driveway, I felt a sense of nostalgia wash over me. The house looked the same as it always had, a charming two-story home with a big front yard. My parents were waiting for us on the porch, waving enthusiastically as we got out of the car. "Ethan, Sophia, welcome!" my mom called out, pulling us into warm hugs. "Nice to finally meet you, Sophia," my dad said with a smile. "Ethan talks about you all the time." "Nice to meet you too, Mr. and Mrs. Dawson," Sophia replied, her nervousness melting away slightly under their warm reception. We spent the afternoon chatting, eating, and catching up. Sophia seemed to relax as the day went on, enjoying the stories and the laughter. I felt a sense of relief, thinking that maybe, just maybe, this visit would be the turning point for us. Then Lucas arrived. I heard the sound of his car before I saw it, a low, powerful rumble that made heads turn. Sophia's eyes widened as a sleek black Lamborghini pulled into the driveway. Lucas stepped out, looking effortlessly cool in his designer clothes and aviator sunglasses. "Hey, little bro," he called out, grinning as he walked over. "And you must be Sophia. It's great to finally meet you." Sophia's eyes were glued to the car, her mouth slightly open in awe. "Wow, that's some car," she said, trying to compose herself. Lucas chuckled. "Thanks. It's my baby." I watched as Sophia's demeanor changed. She seemed more animated, more engaged, as she talked to Lucas about his car, his job, his life. At first I was happy that she was getting along with him, but as the evening went on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The next few days were strange. Sophia couldn't stop talking about Lucas. She asked endless questions about his work, his hobbies, his car. She compared me to him in subtle ways, praising his achievements while highlighting my shortcomings. It was infuriating. "Lucas is just so successful," she said one evening as we were having dinner. "He's really got his life together." I forced a smile, trying to hide my irritation. "Yeah, he's done well for himself, but I'm happy with where I am too, Sophia." "Oh, of course," she said quickly. "I didn't mean it like that. I admire him, that's all." I nodded, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Over the next few weeks, I noticed more and more signs of Sophia's growing fascination with Lucas. She started dressing differently, trying to emulate the sophisticated style she had seen in his social media posts. She began dropping by my parents' house more often, hoping to run into him. It was subtle at first, but it didn't take long for her infatuation to become glaringly obvious. One weekend, we were invited to a family barbecue. Lucas was there, as usual, and Sophia seemed almost giddy at the prospect of spending time with him. Throughout the afternoon, she hovered around him, laughing at his jokes, asking him questions, and generally acting like a love-struck teenager. It was humiliating. At one point, I pulled her aside, trying to keep my voice steady. "Sophia, what's going on? Why are you acting like this?" She looked at me, her eyes wide with feigned innocence. "What do you mean? I'm just being friendly." "Friendly?" I repeated, incredulous. "You're practically fawning over him. It's embarrassing, Sophia." Her expression hardened. "You're overreacting, Ethan. Maybe you're just jealous." I stared at her, stunned by her audacity. "Jealous? Of my own brother? This isn't about jealousy, Sophia. This is about respect. You're my girlfriend, not his." She rolled her eyes, turning away from me. "You're being ridiculous. Lucas is just a nice guy. There's nothing wrong with appreciating that." I wanted to argue, to make her see how hurtful her behavior was, but I could see that it was pointless. Sophia was enamored with Lucas, and nothing I said would change that. The realization was a bitter pill to swallow. That night, as we drove home in silence, I couldn't help but wonder where things had gone so wrong. Sophia's jealousy and insecurity had morphed into something toxic, something that threatened to destroy our relationship, and despite my best efforts, I was powerless to stop it. Little did I know the worst was yet to come. It's amazing how quickly things can go from bad to worse. After that disastrous family barbecue, I knew I needed to do something to address Sophia's growing obsession with Lucas. But every time I tried to bring it up, it ended in an argument. She insisted I was overreacting, that there was nothing to worry about. Deep down, I knew better. Sophia's behavior continued to change. She started dressing in more expensive clothes, mimicking the sophisticated style she had seen in Lucas's social media posts. She even started talking about luxury cars, something she had never shown any interest in before. It was as if she was trying to transform herself into someone who would fit into Lucas's world. One weekend, Sophia and I were supposed to have a quiet evening at my apartment. I had planned a nice dinner, hoping to reconnect and maybe have a serious conversation about where things were heading. But just as we were about to sit down, my phone buzzed with a text from my mom. "Mom, hey Ethan, can you and Sophia swing by tonight? We're having a little get-together. Lucas is here too." I sighed, feeling a sense of dread. The last thing I wanted was another evening where Sophia could fawn over Lucas. But my mom's enthusiasm was hard to resist, and I knew she loved having us all together. "Mom's having a get-together," I told Sophia, trying to keep my tone light. "She wants us to come by. Lucas is there too." Sophia's eyes lit up, and any plans I had for a quiet evening were instantly dashed. "Oh, that sounds fun. We should go." Reluctantly, I agreed. We got into the car and drove to my parents' house. The moment we arrived, I could feel the tension building. Lucas's Lamborghini was parked in the driveway, gleaming under the streetlights. Sophia's eyes were drawn to it like a moth to a flame. Inside, the atmosphere was lively. My parents had invited a few neighbors and friends, and the house was filled with laughter and chatter. Lucas was holding court in the living room, a glass of wine in his hand, looking effortlessly charming as always. "Hey, little bro," Lucas called out when he saw me. "Glad you could make it." "Wouldn't miss it," I replied, forcing a smile. Sophia was already by his side, her eyes wide with admiration. The evening dragged on, with Sophia hanging on Lucas's every word. It was painful to watch, and I felt like a third wheel in my own relationship. Every time I tried to talk to her, she brushed me off, too engrossed in whatever Lucas was saying. At one point, I found myself in the kitchen with my mom. She was bustling around, preparing snacks, completely unaware of the drama unfolding in the living room. "How are things with you and Sophia?" she asked, her back to me as she chopped vegetables. I hesitated, not wanting to burden her with my problems. "We're okay. It's been a bit rough lately." She turned to look at me, concern in her eyes. "I've noticed she's been spending a lot of time with Lucas. Everything all right?" I shrugged, feeling a lump form in my throat. "I don't know, Mom. She seems more interested in him than in me sometimes." Mom put down the knife and walked over, pulling me into a hug. "Relationships are tough, Ethan, but if she's making you feel like this, you need to talk to her. Don't let it fester." "I've tried," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "She just doesn't see it." Before Mom could respond, Lucas and Sophia walked into the kitchen laughing about something. The sight of them together, so carefree and comfortable, made my heart ache. "Hey, we're thinking of taking the Lamborghini for a spin," Lucas said, grinning. "You two want to join?" Sophia's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Yes, that would be amazing!" I wanted to say no, to tell them both that this was ridiculous, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I found myself nodding along, feeling more and more like an outsider in my own life. We piled into the car, and Lucas revved the engine, the powerful roar sending a thrill through the car. Sophia was practically bouncing in her seat, her enthusiasm palpable. I sat in the back feeling like a spectator in a show that I wasn't a part of. As we drove through the city, Lucas and Sophia chatted animatedly about cars, travel, and luxury. I tuned them out, staring out the window and wondering how things had gotten so out of control. My mind raced with thoughts of what to do next, how to salvage my relationship, and whether it was even worth salvaging. Back at the house, the evening continued much the same way. Lucas was the center of attention, and Sophia was his eager audience. I felt invisible, my attempts to engage her falling flat. Finally, as the night drew to a close, I pulled Sophia aside, my frustration boiling over. "Sophia, we need to talk." She looked at me, surprised by the urgency in my voice. "What is it, Ethan?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "This can't go on. You're spending all your time with Lucas. It's like I don't even exist to you anymore." Her expression hardened, and she crossed her arms. "You're being ridiculous. Lucas is just a friend. You're the one making this into something it's not." "It's not just a friendship, Sophia," I said, my voice rising. "You're obsessed with him. You're more interested in his life and his things than you are in me." She rolled her eyes, turning away. "You're overreacting, Ethan. Maybe you're just jealous because he's more successful than you." Her words stung, and I felt a surge of anger. "This isn't about jealousy. This is about respect. You're my girlfriend, and you're treating me like I'm second best." Sophia sighed, her tone dismissive. "I don't have time for this. Maybe you should just grow up and deal with it." With that, she walked away, leaving me standing there, feeling more alone than ever. I watched as she rejoined the party, laughing and chatting with Lucas as if nothing had happened. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Sophia wasn't just jealous. She was infatuated, and I had no idea what to do about it. As the night wore on, I sat by myself, nursing a drink and contemplating my next move. The relationship I had once cherished was crumbling before my eyes, and I felt powerless to stop it. The road ahead seemed uncertain and fraught with challenges, but one thing was clear. Something had to change, and soon. After that disastrous evening, things went from bad to worse. Sophia's behavior grew more erratic, and her infatuation with Lucas became impossible to ignore. She started showing up at my parents' house unannounced, always under the pretext of wanting to spend time with my family, but inevitably gravitating towards Lucas. One afternoon, while I was at work, I received a call from my mom. "Ethan, Sophia's here again," she said, her voice tinged with concern. "She and Lucas have been out by the pool for hours. I thought you should know." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. "Thanks, Mom. I'll talk to her." When I got to my parents' house, I found Sophia lounging by the pool, chatting animatedly with Lucas. She was wearing a new swimsuit, one I hadn't seen before, and she looked far too comfortable. Lucas, to his credit, seemed oblivious to her intentions, treating her with the same friendly warmth he showed everyone. "Sophia, can we talk?" I said, my voice strained. She looked up, surprised. "Ethan, I didn't expect you so soon." "We need to talk, now," I insisted, my patience wearing thin. Sophia sighed, rolling her eyes, but standing up to follow me. We walked to a secluded corner of the yard, away from prying eyes and ears. "This has to stop, Sophia," I said, my frustration bubbling over. "You're here all the time, and it's clear you're more interested in Lucas than you are in us." She crossed her arms, her expression defiant. "I don't see the problem. Lucas and I are just friends. Why can't you accept that?" "Because it's not just friendship," I snapped. "You're obsessed with him. It's like I don't even exist when he's around." Sophia's face hardened. "You're overreacting, Ethan. Maybe if you had more ambition, you wouldn't feel so threatened by him." Her words cut deep, and I felt my anger surge. "This isn't about ambition. This is about respect. You're my girlfriend, Sophia. You should be with me, not chasing after my brother." She shook her head, her expression dismissive. "You're being paranoid. Lucas is just a nice guy, and you're too insecure to handle it." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. "This can't go on, Sophia. You need to choose. Either you're with me or you're not. But I won't stand by and watch you fawn over my brother." She stared at me for a long moment, her eyes filled with a mix of frustration and defiance. "Fine. If that's how you feel, maybe we do need a break." My heart sank, but I nodded. "Maybe we do." Sophia turned and walked away, leaving me standing there, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. I watched as she rejoined Lucas, her laughter echoing across the yard. The realization hit me hard. This might be the end of our relationship, but I couldn't keep living in this twisted love triangle. I spent the rest of the day at my parents' house trying to avoid Sophia and Lucas. I needed space to think, to figure out what to do next. As evening fell, I made my decision. I couldn't continue like this. I needed to take a stand for my own sanity and self-respect. The next day, I called Sophia and asked her to meet me at a nearby park. When she arrived, she looked apprehensive, as if she knew what was coming. "Sophia, I've been thinking a lot about us," I began, my voice steady. "I love you, but I can't keep doing this. Your obsession with Lucas is tearing us apart." She looked away, her expression conflicted. "I don't want to lose you, Ethan, but I don't know how to fix this." "Maybe it's best if we take some time apart," I said gently. "We both need to figure out what we really want." Sophia nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "I understand. I'm sorry for everything." We hugged, and for a moment it felt like old times. But I knew things had changed, and there was no going back. As I watched her walk away, I felt a mix of sadness and relief. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was time to move forward, to find a new path without Sophia's shadow hanging over me. And as for Lucas, he remained blissfully unaware of the storm that had brewed around him. He was my brother, and despite everything, I couldn't blame him for Sophia's actions. I hoped that in time we could all find some semblance of peace and move on from this painful chapter. Little did I know this was just the beginning of a new journey, one that would test my resilience, my relationships, and my understanding of what truly mattered. The break with Sophia was supposed to be a time for reflection and healing, but it felt more like a limbo. I threw myself into work, hoping to distract myself from the aching void she left behind. Yet the shadow of her infatuation with Lucas loomed over everything, making it hard to move on. A few weeks after our break, I received a call from Lucas. He sounded concerned, something I wasn't used to hearing from him. "Hey, Ethan," he began. "Can we meet up? There's something I need to talk to you about." "Sure," I replied, curiosity piqued. "When and where?" "Tonight at the cafe by your place," he said. "Say around 7?" I agreed, and that evening I walked into the cafe, my mind racing with possibilities. Lucas was already there, seated at a corner table, looking unusually serious. "What's up?" I asked, taking a seat across from him. Lucas took a deep breath, his expression troubled. "It's about Sophia." My heart sank. What about her? She came to see me last night, he said, his voice low. She confessed her feelings for me. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I had suspected her infatuation, but hearing it confirmed was a different kind of pain. I struggled to keep my voice steady. What did you say? I told her that I didn't feel the same way, Lucas said, his eyes sincere. I told her that she needed to talk to you, to sort things out, but she didn't take it well. She seemed desperate. I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache coming on. I don't know what to do, Lucas. This is a mess. Lucas leaned forward, his expression earnest. Ethan, I never wanted to come between you two. You're my brother and I care about you. But Sophia needs to understand that her feelings for me aren't real. They're just a distraction from whatever issues she's dealing with. I nodded, appreciating his support but feeling overwhelmed by the situation. Thanks, Lucas. I know you're right. I need to figure out how to handle this. That night, I lay awake, replaying Lucas's words in my mind. Sophia's confession to him was a clear line crossed, and it felt like the final nail in the coffin of our relationship. I knew I needed to confront her, to get closure for both of us. The next day I called Sophia and asked her to meet me at the park where we had broken up. When she arrived, she looked nervous, her eyes darting around as if she couldn't meet my gaze. Lucas told me what happened, I said, getting straight to the point. Her face fell and she looked away, tears welling up in her eyes. Ethan, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Then why did it? I asked, struggling to keep my voice calm. Why did you feel the need to go to him? I don't know, she whispered, her voice breaking. I was confused, and he seemed like everything I wanted. But I realize now that it was just an illusion. I never meant to hurt you. I sighed, feeling a mixture of anger and sadness. Sophia, this isn't just about what you wanted. This is about respect, trust, and honesty. You broke all of that. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I know. And I'm so sorry, Ethan. I understand if you can't forgive me. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision before me. I think we need to stay apart, Sophia. Maybe one day we can be friends, but right now I need time to heal. She looked devastated, but she nodded. I understand. I'll respect that. We parted ways, and as I walked away, I felt a sense of closure. It wasn't the ending I had hoped for, but it was the one we needed. Sophia needed to find herself, and I needed to rebuild my life without the constant shadow of her infatuation with Lucas. Over the next few weeks, I focused on myself, my work, and my relationships with family and friends. Lucas and I grew closer, our bond strengthened by the trials we had faced. I found solace in the support of those who truly cared about me, and slowly I began to heal. One afternoon I received a message from Sophia. It was a simple note, thanking me for understanding and wishing me well. I replied with a short, heartfelt message, hoping she would find the peace and clarity she needed. As I looked out at the city skyline, I felt a renewed sense of hope. The storm had passed, and though there were scars, I knew they would fade with time. Life was moving forward, and so was I, ready to embrace whatever came next. Moving on wasn't easy, but I managed to find a semblance of peace. Sophia and I hadn't spoken much since our final conversation, and I focused on rebuilding my life. Lucas and I spent more time together, strengthening our bond and finding comfort in each other's company. Then came the night when everything fell apart. It was a Friday evening, and Lucas and I were at our favorite bar, catching up over drinks. The conversation was light, filled with jokes and memories of better times. I was starting to feel like myself again, the wounds from Sophia's betrayal slowly healing. As we sat at the bar, my phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at the screen and saw Sophia's name. My heart skipped a beat, and I hesitated before opening the message. Sophia, Ethan, we need to talk. Please meet me at our spot. I stared at the message, a sense of dread settling in my stomach. Lucas noticed my change in demeanor and raised an eyebrow. "Everything okay?" I sighed, putting the phone down. "Sophia wants to meet. She says we need to talk." Lucas's expression hardened. "Do you want me to come with you?" I shook my head. "No, I think I need to handle this on my own." Lucas nodded, his concern evident. "Just be careful, okay?" I nodded, finishing my drink and heading out. The spot Sophia had mentioned was a park where we used to spend a lot of time together. As I walked, memories of our happier times flooded my mind, making the situation even more painful. When I arrived, Sophia was already there, sitting on a bench and looking more nervous than I had ever seen her. I approached cautiously, unsure of what to expect. "Sophia," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "what's going on?" She looked up, her eyes red from crying. "Ethan, I don't know how to say this, but you deserve to know the truth." My heart pounded in my chest. "What truth?" She took a deep breath, tears streaming down her face. "I lied to you. About Lucas. I told him I had feelings for him, but it was all a ploy to make you jealous. I thought if you felt threatened, you'd work harder to keep me, but it backfired. I hurt you, and I hurt him. I'm so sorry." The words hung in the air, and I felt a mix of anger and disbelief. "You did all this to make me jealous?" She nodded, sobbing. "It was stupid and immature. I didn't realize how much damage I was causing until it was too late." I clenched my fists, struggling to contain my emotions. "You manipulated both of us, Sophia. You played with our feelings for your own gain." "I know," she whispered, her voice breaking, "and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I just needed to tell you the truth, to apologize properly." I stared at her, the weight of her betrayal crashing down on me. "I appreciate your honesty, but it doesn't change what you did. You broke my trust and you broke my heart." She nodded, wiping her tears. "I understand. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope you can move on and find happiness." I took a deep breath, trying to find the strength to respond. "I will move on, Sophia, but it's going to take time." With that, I turned and walked away, leaving her sobbing on the bench. The night air felt cold against my skin, but there was a strange sense of clarity in my mind. The truth was painful, but it was also liberating. I could finally close this chapter of my life and focus on healing. When I returned to the bar, Lucas was waiting for me, a concerned look on his face. "How did it go?" I sat down heavily, feeling exhausted. She confessed. It was all a game to make me jealous. She never had feelings for you. Lucas's eyes widened in shock. "She did what?" I nodded, feeling a mixture of anger and relief. "She played us both, Lucas. But at least now we know the truth." Lucas shook his head, disbelief etched on his face. "I'm so sorry, Ethan. I had no idea." "It's not your fault," I said, taking a deep breath. "But at least now I can finally move on." We sat in silence for a moment, processing everything. Then Lucas raised his glass. "To moving on." I clinked my glass against his, a small smile tugging at my lips. "To moving on." As we finished our drinks and talked about lighter topics, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The betrayal had been painful, but the truth had set me free. It was time to focus on the future, to rebuild my life, and to find happiness on my own terms. The next morning, the weight of Sophia's confession lingered heavily on my mind. I felt a mix of anger, betrayal, and a strange sense of relief. The truth, painful as it was, had set me free from the toxic cycle I had been trapped in. But there were still ripples from her actions that needed to be addressed, especially within my family. I decided it was time to talk to my parents. They needed to know the full story, to understand why things had fallen apart between Sophia and me. I called my mom and asked if we could talk. She sensed the urgency in my voice and agreed to meet me at their house. When I arrived, my parents were waiting for me in the living room. My mom looked worried, and my dad wore his usual calm, reassuring expression. Lucas was there too, standing by the window, his face a mix of concern and curiosity. "Ethan, what's going on?" my mom asked, her voice gentle. I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. "I need to tell you all something about Sophia and why we broke up." They listened intently as I recounted the entire story, from Sophia's growing obsession with Lucas to her confession about manipulating us to make me jealous. As I spoke, I could see the shock and disappointment on their faces. My mom's eyes filled with tears. "I had no idea she was doing this, Ethan. I'm so sorry you had to go through this." My dad nodded, his expression somber. "She had no right to treat you like that. You deserved better." Lucas walked over and put a hand on my shoulder. "I'm sorry too, bro. If I had known what she was up to, I would have put a stop to it. I never wanted to come between you two." I nodded, appreciating their support. "It's over now and I'm ready to move on. But I needed you all to know the truth." We spent the rest of the morning talking, processing everything that had happened. It was cathartic, and I felt a sense of closure beginning to settle in. My family's support was a balm to the wounds Sophia's betrayal had inflicted. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. I threw myself into work, reconnecting with old friends and exploring new hobbies. Lucas and I grew closer, our bond strengthened by the trials we had faced together. We started hanging out more, going to the gym, playing basketball, and even planning a road trip for the summer. Sophia, meanwhile, seemed to disappear from our lives. She moved out of her apartment and cut ties with mutual friends, clearly seeking a fresh start somewhere new. I wished her well, but I was relieved to have distance from the turmoil she had caused. One evening, Lucas and I were sitting on the balcony of my apartment, enjoying a couple of beers and watching the sunset. The conversation turned to the future and what we wanted out of life. "So what's next for you, Ethan?" Lucas asked, taking a sip of his beer. I shrugged, feeling a sense of optimism I hadn't felt in a long time. "I'm not entirely sure. I want to focus on my career, maybe travel a bit. Just live my life and see where it takes me." Lucas nodded, a smile playing on his lips. "Sounds like a solid plan. You deserve some happiness, man." I smiled, feeling grateful for his support. "Thanks, Lucas. What about you? Any big plans?" He grinned, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Actually, yeah. I've been thinking about starting my own business. I've got some ideas I want to explore, and I think now's the time to go for it." "That's awesome," I said, genuinely excited for him. "You've got the skills and the drive. I know you'll make it happen." We clinked our bottles together, toasting to new beginnings. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt a sense of peace settle over me. The pain and betrayal of the past were starting to fade, replaced by hope and a renewed sense of purpose. The fallout from Sophia's actions had been intense, but it had also brought my family closer together. We had faced the storm and come out stronger on the other side. And now, with the future stretching out before me, I was ready to embrace whatever came next. As the night grew darker, I knew one thing for sure. Life was unpredictable and challenges were inevitable. But with the support of my family and the strength I had found within myself, I was ready to face whatever came my way. The past was behind me and the future was full of possibilities. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly free. After weeks of focusing on myself and spending time with family, life began to feel normal again. I rediscovered the joy in simple things: morning runs, cooking, and catching up with friends. My bond with Lucas was stronger than ever, and my parents were more supportive than I could have asked for. Yet, despite the sense of calm, there was a nagging feeling that I needed to take a significant step forward. One afternoon, while Lucas and I were at the gym, he brought up an idea that had been brewing in his mind. "Ethan, have you thought about taking some time off?" he asked, wiping sweat from his brow. I looked at him puzzled. "Time off? From work?" "Yeah," he said, nodding. "You've been through a lot, and sometimes a change of scenery can do wonders. You've always wanted to travel. Why not take a few months and just go?" The idea was appealing, but it felt daunting. I don't know, Lucas. I have responsibilities here. And what about my job? You've got vacation time saved up, he pointed out, and you're in a good place with work. They'd understand if you needed a break. Think about it. You could explore new places, meet new people, and come back refreshed. The more I thought about it, the more it made sense. A break could be exactly what I needed to fully move on and gain a new perspective. That evening I sat down with my parents and discussed the idea. To my surprise, they were fully supportive. "You've been through a lot, Ethan," my mom said, her eyes filled with understanding. "Sometimes stepping away can help you heal and find clarity." My dad nodded in agreement. "We'll be here when you get back. Take the time you need for yourself." With their encouragement, I decided to take the plunge. I spoke with my boss, who was incredibly understanding and supportive of my decision to take a sabbatical. Within a few weeks, I had planned an itinerary for a 3-month trip across Europe and Asia, places I had always dreamed of visiting but never had the chance. The night before my departure, Lucas threw a small send-off party at his place. Close friends and family gathered, and the atmosphere was filled with excitement and well wishes. As the evening wound down, Lucas pulled me aside. "I'm really proud of you, Ethan," he said, his voice sincere. "This trip is going to be amazing, and remember, it's not just about seeing new places, it's about finding yourself again." I smiled, feeling a wave of gratitude. "Thanks, Lucas. I couldn't have done this without you." The next morning I boarded a plane feeling a mix of nerves and exhilaration. The journey ahead was unknown, but for the first time in a long time I felt ready to embrace whatever came my way. My first stop was London, a city that had always fascinated me. I spent my days exploring historical landmarks, visiting museums, and savoring the vibrant culture. I met fellow travelers at hostels and cafes, sharing stories and forming new friendships. Each day brought a sense of adventure and discovery, slowly mending the pieces of my broken heart. From London I traveled to Paris, Rome, and then on to the serene landscapes of Switzerland. Each destination offered a unique experience, and with every step I felt lighter and more at peace. I hiked the Swiss Alps, tasted wine in Tuscany, and marveled at the architectural wonders of ancient Rome. As I journeyed through Europe, I began to reflect on the lessons learned from my past relationship. I realized that I had been too focused on trying to fix something that was fundamentally flawed. Sophia's betrayal had been a wake-up call, forcing me to reassess what I wanted in a relationship and, more importantly, in life. Halfway through my trip, I arrived in Thailand, ready to explore the rich culture and breathtaking landscapes. One evening, while sitting on a beach in Phuket watching the sunset, I struck up a conversation with a fellow traveler named Mia. She was a writer from Australia, exploring Southeast Asia for inspiration. We clicked instantly, sharing stories of our travels and personal journeys. Mia had a warmth and authenticity that was refreshing, and our conversations flowed effortlessly. We ended up spending the next few weeks traveling together, exploring the vibrant cities and tranquil islands of Thailand. Mia's perspective on life was enlightening. She had faced her own share of hardships and had chosen to embrace life with an open heart and mind. Her positivity and zest for life were infectious, and I found myself opening up to her in ways I hadn't with anyone else. One evening, as we sat on the beach under a blanket of stars, Mia turned to me, her eyes reflecting the moonlight. "Ethan, what's been the most important lesson you've learned on this journey?" I thought for a moment, feeling a sense of clarity. "I've learned that sometimes you have to let go of what's hurting you to make room for something better, and that it's okay to take time for yourself, to heal and rediscover what makes you happy." Mia smiled, her hand gently squeezing mine. "That's a beautiful realization. Life is too short to hold on to pain. Embrace the present and look forward to the future." As my trip neared its end, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The time away had given me the space to heal, reflect, and grow. I had made new friends, experienced new cultures, and most importantly, found a deeper understanding of myself. Returning home, I was greeted with open arms by my family and friends. Lucas, in particular, was eager to hear all about my adventures. We sat for hours, sharing stories and laughing, the bond between us stronger than ever. Life had a way of surprising you, and this journey had been a testament to that. The pain of the past had led me to new horizons and new beginnings, and as I settled back into my routine, I felt ready to face whatever came next with a renewed sense of hope and resilience. The turning point had come, and I had embraced it fully. The future was bright, and I was ready to live it to the fullest. Returning home from my 3-month journey felt like waking up from a vivid, transformative dream. The familiar sights, sounds, and smells of home welcomed me back, but I felt like a different person. The trip had been more than just an escape. It had been a journey of self-discovery and healing, and now I was ready to face the future with renewed clarity and purpose. Lucas was the first to greet me at the airport, his grin as wide as ever. "Welcome back, world traveler," he said, pulling me into a bear hug. "It's good to be back," I replied, genuinely meaning it. "I've got so much to tell you." As we drove home, I shared stories of my adventures, the people I had met, and the lessons I had learned. Lucas listened intently, his eyes shining with pride and happiness for me. It felt good to reconnect, to share my experiences with someone who had been there for me through it all. When we arrived at our parents' house, they were waiting on the porch, their faces lighting up as soon as they saw me. My mom pulled me into a tight hug, tears streaming down her face. "We missed you so much, Ethan." "I missed you too, Mom," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "It's good to be home." My dad clapped me on the back, his eyes twinkling with pride. "Welcome back, son. You look like a new man." "I feel like one," I admitted, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for their unwavering support. That evening, we had a small family dinner, filled with laughter, stories, and warmth. It was the perfect way to ease back into my life here, surrounded by the people who mattered most. As we sat around the table, I felt a profound sense of contentment and peace. Over the next few weeks, I settled back into my routine. I returned to work feeling refreshed and more focused than ever. My colleagues were supportive and curious about my travels, and I enjoyed sharing snippets of my experiences with them. The break had given me a new perspective on my career, and I found myself more engaged and motivated. Lucas and I continued to spend a lot of time together, our bond stronger than ever. We planned our summer road trip, excited to create new memories and adventures together. The scars from the past had begun to heal, and I felt a renewed sense of purpose and direction. One afternoon, as Lucas and I were hiking in the nearby hills, he turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Ethan, have you thought about what's next for you? Beyond work and travel, I mean." I paused, considering his question. "I've been thinking a lot about that. I want to focus on personal growth, maybe even take up some new hobbies. And eventually, I want to find someone who shares my values and passions." Lucas nodded, a smile playing on his lips. "I'm glad to hear that. You deserve happiness, Ethan, and I have no doubt you'll find it." A few days later, I received a message from Mia, the writer I had met in Thailand. She was planning a trip to the United States and wanted to know if we could catch up. The timing felt serendipitous, and I eagerly agreed, looking forward to reconnecting with someone who had played a significant role in my journey of self-discovery. When Mia arrived, we spent hours talking about our travels, our dreams, and the paths we had taken since we last saw each other. Her presence was a reminder of the vibrant, adventurous spirit I had embraced during my trip, and it felt like a natural continuation of my journey. As we sat on the same beach where Lucas and I had once had our heart-to-heart, Mia turned to me with a smile. "You seem more at peace, Ethan, like you found a sense of clarity." "I have," I replied, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "This journey has taught me a lot about myself, about what I want and what I value, and I'm excited for what's next." Mia's eyes sparkled with warmth. "I'm glad to hear that. Here's to new beginnings and endless possibilities." We raised our glasses in a toast, the sun setting on the horizon, painting the sky with hues of orange and pink. It was a moment of reflection and hope, a reminder that life's challenges often lead to the most profound growth and transformation. The months that followed were filled with new experiences and connections. I pursued new hobbies, deepened my relationships with family and friends, and opened my heart to the possibilities of love and happiness. The pain of the past had become a distant memory, replaced by a sense of optimism and resilience. One evening, as I sat on the balcony of my apartment, watching the city lights twinkle below, I felt a deep sense of contentment. The journey had been long and challenging, but it had led me to a place of peace and fulfillment. I was ready to embrace the future, whatever it might hold, with an open heart and a courageous spirit. And so, the story of my jealous girlfriend, my older brother, and the Lamborghini had come to an end. It was a tale of betrayal, heartache, and ultimately growth and redemption. Life had thrown its challenges my way, but I had emerged stronger, wiser, and ready to face whatever adventures lay ahead. As I looked out at the vast expanse of the night sky, I knew one thing for certain. The future was bright, and I was ready to live it to the fullest.